Hi everyone, welcome to another video. In this tutorial, I'd like to show you all how to use Matlab or Octave to create matrices and also to access individual matrix elements and assign entire rows or entire columns to variables. So let's get started. I have a blank.m file open right now in Octave. Octave is essentially the free downloadable version of Matlab. Most Matlab syntax and .m files are compatible in Octave. I'm first going to start by creating a 4x4 matrix A. In order to create my matrix, I'm going to use square brackets. The first row will be 1, 2, 3, 4. The next row will be 5, 6, 7, 8. The next row will be 9, 10, 11, and 12. And the final row will be 13, 14, 15, and 16. I'm going to run my code right now. Navigating over to the command window, you can see we've created our matrix A, our 4x4 matrix. Navigating back over to our editor, let's just briefly check out this notation used to create matrix A. So for our row, I separated our elements with spaces. To move on to the next row, I use a semicolon, and then again, I separate my rows with spaces until I create my entire 4x4 matrix. Let's suppose I'd like to create a variable B and assign the entire first row of matrix A to variable B and essentially create a vector. So I have my variable B. I'd like to access matrix A, and I would like to access the first row, comma, all of the columns, close parentheses. So with this notation, I'd like to access matrix A, and then I want the first row, all of the columns. So we have this sort of row, comma, column notation that we're going to be using throughout today's tutorial. Let's go ahead and run our code and see the variable B that we've created. You can see that variable B is the entire first row of matrix A. It's that first row, and it's all of the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what if I would like to create a new variable C that is only going to be this last column? So I'd like to create a vector that is just these 4 elements, a column vector with the elements 4, 8, 12, and 16. So navigating to the next line, I have my variable C. I'd like to access all of the rows, but I would only like the 4th column. So the same notation accessing matrix A, use the colon to indicate all. I have all of the rows, comma, 4th column. Go ahead and run our code and see the variable C that we've created. Just as we'd expect, we've successfully created a variable C that is the 4th column of our matrix A. So now what if we would like to access multiple rows or multiple columns? Let's go ahead and create a variable D that encompasses these last 2 columns of matrix A. So we want columns 3 and 4, and all of the rows in columns 3 and 4. So D equals matrix A, all of the rows, but now I want columns 3 and 4, so I'm going to use brackets, 3, comma, 4. So with this notation, I'm accessing all of the rows and only the 3rd and the 4th columns. I'll go ahead and run our code, and we can check out the variable D that we've created. Just as we'd expect, we have that 3rd and 4th column for variable D. So now what if I would like to create another variable E that accesses columns 2 through 4? So instead of just selecting a couple columns and using the comma in between here, what if I would like to use a through operator to select columns 2 through 4? Create a new variable E And again, we're accessing matrix A. We're accessing all of the rows. But now we would like to access columns 2 through 4. So I'm going to do 2:4. And using this colon here as is means that we'd like to access 2 through 4 columns 2 through 4. If we go ahead and run our code, we can check back here. We've created a variable E that accesses columns 2 through 4. So we've got column 2, column 3, and column 4 for variable E. Now, the final tip I'd like to show you is how to access an individual matrix element. So I'm going to create a new variable F. For variable F, let's suppose in matrix A, we would like to access the second row and the third column. So the second row and the third column is just going to return a 7. So the second row and the third column. Let's go back over to our editor and implement this. So we'd like to access matrix A, the second row, and the third column. So fairly straightforward. We just use that row, comma, column notation. And if we run our code, you can see that we've successfully created variable F, and F equals 7, just as we would anticipate, because the second row and the third column from A is 7. And there you have it. That completes this tutorial for building matrices in Matlab or Octave and accessing individual matrix elements. Thank you.